I'm still tinkering with the blue-black Dimir tempo flow state, another golf list, and the list performs great, but it's really tight since we had to fit in four flow states and two bobbles for the nether golfs. It's just we had to go down to three ponders, three nether golf, three bowmasters. So, and only 2 days as well. So I would like to somehow fit in a 20th land and the fourth ponder and the brazen borer and the third days and so on. But yeah, the list is really, really tight. So currently I'm running this configuration. Of course, you can cut the nether golf and the bobbles and play a more controlling list. But as Tron is played so much right now and slower combo decks, like for example Sneak and Show, I really like the pressure of Nether Golf and want to continue like this and see what's the best configuration here. I played it on the weekend, I think, with zero Brazen Boros, but I was really frustrated when I lost against Lance, which is currently usually my deal breaker for always playing two Sheoldred's Edicts because it can get rid of my large token. But I realized that it doesn't work if the opponent has other tokens. So in this game that I had at the weekend, the opponent always had one Rumble token, and then I put up Tamio to four so I could rebuy it. But then I got wastelanded and they made another Rumble token. So yeah, I'm now on only one Sheoldred's Edict, so I can fit in the Brazen Borer, at least in the sideboard. But of course, this means now it's a bit harder to get permanently rid of relevant stuff like Tamio flipped or like Ajani Planeswalker or whatever. But I mean, Magic is a game of compromises, so this is the compromise I'm testing right now. Another compromise is that we don't have turn one graveyard protection on the draw against stuff like Fast Reanimator or people still running Oops. But I really, really like the Neil Spellbomb into the tempo mirrors or pseudo mirrors, so I'm keeping that, especially with the four Thoughtseize, so we can board out a bunch of Thoughtseizes and forces and bring in Nihil Spellbombs. Also, down to Zero Massacre, I think this is not played that much before. The decks like Energy and Death and Texas, and also, if they are favored, if they're played a lot, then I think I lose those anyway. So right now, I try to focus on colorless decks like Tron with the full four consign. To memory, if I see more storm, maybe I go back to the damping sphere, and I'm trying here the third hydro. On this case, it's a blue blast against stuff like Hexing Squelch or like Faithless Looting, for example. Yeah, let's see how it works out. It's always a compromise. Let's try it. All right, and in game one, we already paid the price for only playing 19 lands, of which we only have 15, no, we have only 14 blue sources and 13 untapped blue sources because we have 19 lands and four wastelands and one basic swamp. So even the hyper aggressive blue red decks also play 19 lands, but they don't have the basic swamp. So they have better mana, not considering wasteland than we have. So yeah, I looked it up in a hypergeometric calculator, and it's like 11.8% chance to not have a land with, I think it was 40, no, with 15, and with 14 blue sources, you have 13.8. So it's like around 2%, or if you see it like relatively, I think with 20 lands, we would have like 15% chance that we wouldn't have had to mulligan this. I'm not completely sure about the math. Maybe you can chime in the comments, but yeah, it just feels wrong to me to play 19 lands, but I just don't have the space. So here we have to mulligan, and we play against Tundra 63, unknown opponent, and we put away one of the underground seas here, and we start. If it's a suspected combo opponent, we would start with Ponder, trying to find a force, or like suspected fast combo. For example, someone who always play Oops, but opponent plays Island and Pass, so it could be something fair, but could also be slow combo, right? So that's why I'm trying to get them to daze my ponder, but in hindsight, I don't really like it because we cannot find the Force plus blue card anyways. So I think in hindsight, I mean, we could have tried to find a sword thief and try to see what's going on. Um, but other than that, so we do find a force here. And because the opponent didn't play something turn one, I'm like slightly hedging towards combo. So I put the Force of Will in hand in case the opponent has a sword seize, because then I can still draw into the Tamio and then we put the Snuff out last because we don't know yet if we need it. And I mean, we only need the second Tamio if the first one dies, right? So it's uh, but yeah, I think in hindsight, maybe it would have been better to just play two Nether Golfs here. But the problem is then they could die to a Bowmaster, but we could also like play a fetch land, maybe fetch land, and then playing two Nether Golfs would be better. Not completely sure. Feel free to write what you would have done. Opponents still like presenting kind of combo-y or like control-y because they don't play out stuff. We play the Nether Golf first in case they counter it. I mean, this does not bluff Kaito, but bluffing Kaito is not that much of a priority right now because people play less Kaito since flow state. So I think it's better to give them a chance here to counter the Nevergolf. And here we go for the fetch. And we could have gone for the surveillance, but because we already have two clue tokens, I think it's better to not go for the surveil right now, so we can emergency crack a clue token to find something like a daze, and the opponent puts away sneak attack and combo is confirmed. So opponent goes for the show and tell, which we force here without cracking the clue tokens in case they are playing daze and they force back pitching spell pierce. So fortunately we are on the play here and now we crack the clue token and draw into the days, which is a chance of around 4%, right? We have two hits in 50 cards, so this was quite low chance, but we play to our outs, and now we find Kaito as well. Doesn't matter if we bring in Kaito in the block step or damage step because the Nether Golfs have 3 power. I still think it's better to do it in the block step in case they do have some instant speed free graveyard hate, which is not really realistic, but I think it's just um, better all else being equal. So we hit for 9, opponent goes to 7, and we find the days, which is really good. So we can hopefully just go into the next turn, kill the opponent. We could have dazed the Lotus Petal, but I don't think it's correct. So we have to hope there isn't another show and tell here. Opponent goes for the stock up. And I'm going for the days in case they find something like Ancient Tomb, show and tell. We could also have kept the days for the follow-up, not completely sure, but we will game. In game two, we don't have to mulligan. We have a really nice hand with a Force, Entamio, Brainstorm, Nether Golf, 3 lands. That's really, really nice. I mean, Swordseize would be even better, but it's still really, really good. So opponent goes for Lotus Petal and Ponder. We don't play around Blood Moon or something like this because that's not really common that they bring it in. I mean, we could maybe, if we are really far ahead, fetch the basic swamp at some point, but right now, maybe we draw a wasteland and maybe we want to go for another golf turn two, right? We don't know. But we probably want to go for the brainstorm next turn. There is a hexing squelcher. Opponent sacrifices the lotus petal for it. So now we don't have removal, but we fortunately draw into the hydroblast. So the question is in which order we do stuff. So the idea here is that we try to bait out a counterspell using the brainstorm here by flipping Tamio, and then we can hydro, but the opponent doesn't bite here, and we put back 1 excess lands because 3 should be enough for now. And the Bowmaster, because we have enough threats here, and so opponent doesn't bite. And now we try it. We shuffle away the Bowmaster and the basic island. And here I pass the turn because the opponent has mana up. But I'm not sure if it's correct. But I think if the opponent was tapped out, maybe it would have been better. But now for the opponent, for example, if they have show and tell and Flusterstorm, Spell Pierce, something like this, then we can go for it. So I bite here and go for the Hydroblast. We could also take the damage, but I would rather keep Tamio at 4. Maybe we need another Hydroblast next turn and want to keep Tamio around. And the opponent did have the Flusterstorm, so if in case they also have something like Show and Tell, we are in a better spot by sequencing it like this. And now I decide to Wasteland and sacrifice Tamio because we have other threats just to get rid of the of the Squelcher because we do have Daze and Force of Negation, right? And now we go for the Nethergolf. And the opponent is missing a land drop, so now we just try to win quickly here. We attack first, and then we go for a small Murktide, so we can go for a big Murktide next turn. Right, and the opponent goes for Hexing Squelcher. We daze, even though it does not counter, just so we have more for the Murktide here. We could have Force of Negation as well, but then we would have had to pitch the Murktide Regent, which would kind of defeat the purpose here. And now we attack for 6. The opponent gets rid of the Murktide, but they don't find a third land. And we just win the game here. All right, this was it for match. And in match 2, we are on the play against an opponent that I don't know, but we looked them up and saw they play Storm. So usually I would just slam Tamio turn 1 here, but I decide, well, I don't have a Brainstorm anyways. So all I'm missing is a single clue potentially. So we see there's a blue card on top, which was our goal, and it's a flow state, which is a nice blue card. So we just pass the turn without fetching. So we draw into the flow state here. And the opponent plays Bayou, so that's not really played in the Epic Storm, I think, but they don't have a turn 1 play, like some creature or something. So we're still expecting combo here. So we go for the Undercity Sewers, which shows the days. So we keep the days, and now we can go for the Wasteland. Opponent makes green mana. So this could be Veil of Summer, and we play Tamio. And opponent goes for Polluted Delta, Underground Sea, and goes for Cirxi. We could daze it, but like this would really slow us down because of the Undercity Sewers. And if they take away the daze, then they also lose 2 life, and we don't have to bounce a land, right? If they take a force, we still have 1 force and a daze, and they decide to take the flow state, which is also okay because we don't have it active anyways, and maybe we can get it back with Tamio. So here I have an interesting call. So it's confirmed to be Storm, but something like Old Storm, like Ad Nauseam Tendrils with Cabal Ritual. So they are more resilient to stuff like Nilrod, which we don't play, but they are more disrupted by hand disruption, usually because they don't have so many engines, like, I don't know, the Echo of Eons and stuff like this. So we attack here with Tamio and opponent. That's also interesting. So because I have days here, I decide to get rid of the Lotus Petal. I'm not sure. Maybe it makes more sense to go for the flow state or something else. But they go for a Ponder here, which I decide to daze using an Underground Sea because I want to crack the clue next turn because the ponder can find them another land, right? So it's always really difficult to know what you're discarding against Storm. Like, do you pinch them on mana or on payoffs or whatever. And here, because of the days, I just try to prevent them from getting land drops, but they do manage to find a land drop. So they have a flow state. So this is a good moment to pop the clue token here in case you find another daze. So I decide to force it here, which I'm not sure it is correct because it's not active and we lose 2 cards. But on the other hand, we know their hand isn't really functional. I mean, they do have mana and tendrils, but they don't have enough to kill us natural storm style, right? We are at 14 lives, so we have to be a bit careful at some point. So now I just decide to just try to win with combat damage. I mean, it's possible that we can flip Tamio if we draw another land next turn. So in that case, would be nice to get something back, but I think it's more likely that we just win via damage quicker. So here I could also pop the clue token first in case we draw Wasteland. I think this is a mistake. On the other hand, if we draw into something that costs double black, but we don't have that, right? We don't have Doughty Voidwalker or something. So maybe it would have been better. And yeah, we get a bit punished here because I think in hindsight, this is a mistake because if we wasteland here and take away their black mana, they are in a bunch of trouble. So I think this could easily be a game losing move here. They go for Lion's Eye Diamond. And here we have to pay attention that they don't trick us into a natural storm, but they have 1 card too little, right? Probably. So I'm going to risk it here and bite on the brainstorm. And now they have storm count 5 because now they're dead on board next turn. And I think they weren't before. So yeah, storm count is 6, and yeah, this is only 12, so we are still alive. But I mean, if they just find another tendrils or something, so the Cirxi is not really helpful. So we can just stop the opponent here by wastelanding and hoping they don't have like more mana and natural tendrils or something like this. And we flip Tamio, wasteland, and just hope the opponent cannot deal damage to us here. And they do go for Infernal Tutor, so in case they had something like Grape Shot, they could win, but they don't have it, and we win. And we're now in game 2. So for sideboarding, I'm really unsure about sideboarding in Storm. So conventional wisdom is that your turn 1 threats are the best. But I just feel like often they play Echo of Eons, so they probably don't do it here. But yeah, I just find it really, really difficult to decide, do you bring in the Grave Fate? Do you bring in like to keep in the Bowmasters? There are so many variations, and in this case, I thought, well, I want to bring in all the 4 consigns and the 2 Force of Negations, of course, and the 2 Nihil Spell Bombs. And because they play like cantrips, I wanted to keep in the Bowmasters, and so I decided to take out Nethergolf Bauble and become more of a control deck. So this may be totally wrong. Feel free to write in the comments, but I mean, because this is more of an ad nauseam tendrils deck with Cabal Ritual and so on, I think it's more defensible to go for the Nihil Spellbomb, because maybe if they have such an old school build, it's also possible that they go for Past in Flames, or like you can disable their Cabal Rituals. So maybe they don't even play the Besiege the Mirror, right? So I think it's more defensible to just try to prevent them from doing stuff than against the Epic Storm, where they just have so many options to reload and with Echo and so on. So here we have a really strong hand. We don't have a threat, and we have lots of blue cards, and opponent is missing land drops here. So now we just have to win here quickly. So we just go for we keep the flow state on top, and yeah, we just make control game plan. We don't do damage here, but we can just go for the flow states, right? Flow state, flow state, flow state. I mean, we could go for an instant. Right, I don't do a flow state here. Yeah, I do because even though it's not card advantage in this case, I mean, it's also really helpful to just find the right cards against combos. So we take the brainstorm here and flip Tamio, and now we kind of have an almost unbeatable hand. So we don't even need the brainstorm here because we just have so many good cards and we have the Cirxis. So we take away the Ponder again. It's always against Storm. I think it's really difficult to decide. But in my opinion here, their game plan is to get to 2 or 3 mana and then like go for flow state and like I think they need a few setup turns. And I have a wasteland, so my idea here is if I can just remove their cantrips, it takes longer. Could also be difficult, like if they draw like land and dark ritual or something, then that they can assemble something, but because they need so much mana to also play their Thoughtseize and a Veil of Summer, I just decide here that I just want to get rid of the ponder and that the opponent has enough because they don't have another land and we win. And immediately we are on a draw against Cirxi, so our hand is quite flexible, right? We have Bowmaster against fair, force against unfair, and flow state against everything. So it's kind of maybe weak against lands. And they have Urza Saga and Undercity Sewers, interesting combination. So it's Storm again, but Black Saga Storm. And they take the Force of Will, go for the Lotus Petal, Lionside Diamond, and they just have the kill here with Besiege into Gea's Will. And we go into the next one here against the Black Saga Storm. It's really important to look at their mana base. So do they have a splash for blue? Do they have a splash for red? We don't see a red splash, so we don't board in the blue blast. All right, so you can really see that the different storm variants require different sideboarding. So here we didn't see a red splash from Black Saga Storm, so we don't bring in the Hydroblast and the Blue Elemental Blasts. Also because we didn't see cantrips, so usually they don't play Ponder Brainstorm often, but I'm not sure. I think the Epic Storm sometimes plays Brainstorm, sometimes it doesn't. But usually for those variants, especially Black Saga Storm, they more often than not don't play cantrips. So the Bowmasters aren't great, except if they go for Echo, but then they often survive it. So that's a really difficult decision if you want the Bowmasters or not. But here in this case, I decide to just bring in the Brazen as a blue card, keep in the Kaito, get rid of one Nethergolf, get rid of all the Bowmasters, all the removal, and bring in the 4 Consigns and the 2 Force of Negations and the 2 Nihil Spell Bombs. So this hand is really nice. We have the Thoughtseize and we have the Brainstorm Flow State. So we can just turn on the flow state. So we see 2 Hexing Squelchers, which is a bit difficult. So we cannot defeat both of them. So I decide here to just let them have 2 Hexing Squelchers and accept that we cannot counter, get rid of the Force of Negation. And now we just need to outrace 2/2 creatures, which should be doable in our deck, right? So we just get rid of the Force of Negation and the basic island. And I mean, we lose quite some life from all the fetching and the sword seizing and so on. So if we knew we would have the second Thoughtseize, maybe we could have worked on the Hexing Squelchers. But yeah, I decide to just take the Mox Opal here to limit their mana. And now they go for Urza Saga and for Squelcher number 1. And now we could go for the Murktide here, but I want to write out the flow state first because it wouldn't be active here. So Brainstorm Tamio, really nice. We also have the Wasteland to get rid of the Urza Saga. And the opponent goes for the second Squelcher and attacks us. And we just have to hope that they cannot assemble a combo. So here I decide to go for the Tamio first. We could also have gone for the Murktide now. But I mean, we have 3 cards in graveyard, but I decided I want to just flip the Tamio quickly here, shuffle away one of the Tamio. I mean, we could also have played another one, but I go for the spell bomb instead here because we don't have counter magic except the consign. We can at least do something against Echo of Eons. Maybe. I mean, that's always a problem with Nihil Spellbomb, if that they don't lose priority if they crack Lion's Eye Diamond, right? So they could still go for an Echo if they have it. But against Gea's Will, we still kind of have insurance, right? So we get rid of a land here, and I don't remember what the second one was. And now we can just go for Murktide Regent while ticking up Tamio and while also having the Consign up and the Nihil Spellbomb as well. So the Hexing Squelcher doesn't stop Consign to memory. I mean, we cannot counter artifacts or like colorless spells, but we can still counter storm triggers, right? So there is Ursa Saga. So we do have the option to consign the trigger from Ursa Saga. The question is if we can just outrace it, right? So we keep the Tamio on top here because like it creates clues and it's also a blocker, so why not? And we find another spell bomb, and a nice thing we can do here, we find another flow state and ponder. The nice thing is we have a 2-turn kill here because we can just go for the Nihil spell bomb on our own graveyard. So opponent goes down to 10. So now we don't really need to use the consign on the Ursa Saga because the opponent is dead first, right? So they attack Tamio, I think. Yep. And now we just go into our turn and we just use the Nihil spell bomb. I mean, this is all just insurance. I don't know what could go wrong here. Maybe they have like, they don't even have cards in hand. So we just attack here, remove our own graveyard to grow the Murktide, and we win the game. Now that we know they did have the red splash all along, we just didn't see it. I'd again bring out the Nethergolfs and Baubles. Again, I don't know if it's good. Feel free to disagree, but I just want to maximize my blue count for the forces here and bring in the Hydroblasts. So that's what I tried here. And this hand is a bit borderline. We are on the draw and we have an emergency Nihil Spellbomb crack turn 2 to draw a card. So we have three draws until we kind of have a problem, right? We are on the draw, so that's our first draw. Then we have turn 2 draw and we luck back in to the land here on turn 1. But if that didn't hit, again, we could just play the spell bomb and hope to find something. But the combination of spell bomb, swamp, and force led me to keep it, but yeah, feel free to disagree here. Opponent gets rid of a Burning Wish, so more reason to have the blue blasts. And now we attack with Tamio and Brainstorm here, and the opponent is Brainstorm locked and surrenders. And we go on to the and in match 4, we play against ziofrancone, and we have a hand which is really nice, full of blue cards. We have the Tamio, Brainstorm, and Force. And we decide to go for basic Island Swamp because the opponent was seen on tempo, I think, and they have the Dragon's Rage channel, so we could force that, but I decide to keep the force in the back pocket for later to protect Tamio or to get rid of something really catastrophic. And we draw into the Fatal Push, which is really nice. So now the question is, do we play our Brainstorm around days or the push around days? I decide to play the Brainstorm around days because I think flipping Tamio is more important to alleviate pressure. And what I don't have a shuffle effect, right? So we can just get rid of the Bowmaster for this turn and draw it then on the next turn. And we see the opponent has a daze on top, so we want to push right now before the opponent can draw the daze. There is another daze, so we know there is a daze now and there will be a daze again, and we just use the double, we just use Force Pit Force right now because the opponent used daze, which means that they cannot go for the for a cutter or a Murktide or something really, really dangerous next turn. And they also cannot kill Tamio right now, probably, unless, yeah, I don't know, maybe fetch land into Unholy Heat would kill Tamio, but other than that, she is pretty much safe. So now they shuffle their library, probably looking for land, not sure. And yeah, we brainstorm again because you want to find lands. And now we uptick and now we present the problem for the opponent here. First, we can threaten the ultimate relatively soon. And second, we have the Bowmaster. I mean, we know the opponent has a daze, but the positive thing at least is we can stop the opponent from generating a token this turn if we just react to the Cory Steel Cutter. So we play it into the known daze. But at least now they don't get a token because the daze was the second spell. And now we can just go for the uptick on Tamio and create a big Murktide here. And we cracked the clue, not sure if it was correct in this order. And the opponent goes for Boomerang Basics on the Murktide around daze, interestingly in this order, and then Bolt on Tamio, which we daze, and then we just threaten Ultimate, and so we win game. So how does the sideboarding work out with this version? So we bring out 4 Swordseas, 4 Force of Will, and one of the dazes, because we have a lot of to bring in, right? We have the 2 Hydros, the 1 Blue Blast, and the usual Edict, the Borrower, the Barrow Golfs, and I think that was it, right? And the Nihil Spell Bombs, 2 Nihil Spell Bombs, right? So yeah, pretty clean swap. Maybe we don't need to bring in that many, but I really like having the 3 Blue Blasts here because Cutter is a big problem for us otherwise. And the opponent goes for turn 1 Dragon's Rage Chandler, strong play. Here we go for Tamio into Snuff Out. So here the sequencing is important. So in hindsight, maybe this was wrong, but because now if the opponent has a daze and a bolt, they can get rid of the Snuff Out and the Tamio, and they have a lot of removal for Tamio, right? But on the other hand, it's my only threat right now. So not sure if I should have played it the other way around, but I draw into the Fatal Push, luckily. So I attack, maybe the opponent does something to get Delirium. No, they don't. And now I just go for the Fatal Push. So against the prowess stuff, it's often better to play interaction on your own turn. So in case they react to it with a daze or something, that then, or Red Blast, whatever they have to your relevant spells, then they don't get more damage, right? So here we decided to go for duels for now. Wasteland, we put it on top because we have a clue and we can generate card advantage, so we are in a comfortable spot here. And we pop the clue token, so we could also have bluffed Bowmaster, but the thing is we have 2 Mishra's Baubles in our deck. So if we have Mishra's Baubles in a deck, it's often okay to pop a clue token in our main phase if we don't have anything better to do. But if you don't play with Mishra's Bauble and don't have a play afterwards, it's also often better to like threaten a Bowmaster or something like this. So here we play a Murktide as a 4/4, so it survives the Lightning Bolt, but the problem is we don't have another fetch land and not much other stuff in the graveyard, so it will be difficult to play the second Murktide here. The first one gets killed by a Pyroblast, and the opponent is threatening a lot of damage here, so we have to spend a Hydroblast on one of the tokens, and no, it's a petty theft, sorry. We spend a petty theft and opponent goes for the wasteland. Fortunately, we have a lot of lands here, but yeah, we are at 4 life, so we even if we kill the cutter and they do decide to go for the pyroblast and we go to 1 here, No, we decide to block here to preserve our life total. Maybe we want to fetch or something. So we go for the brainstorm, and now it's really difficult to stay alive here. So I decide to start with the Murktide region so we can kind of trade. So if we went down to one, I mean, we could block now. So we go for a flow state and we find another flow state, which is usually great, but here we're just a bit too far behind, right? And opponent also goes for flow state. We go for the edict in response, and I mean, they go for the brainstorm. And we kind of stabilize for now. They are at 0, so we can hard cast the Kaito, tap down the Otter, attack with Murktide, but the opponent doesn't really need much. They have Mystic Sanctuary and put Flow State on top, Boomerang basics, the Storm Chaser's talent, draw a card, draw into a flow state. So the deck has some nice catch-up potential now. And they have another Storm Chaser's talent, and there is one more stun token here, and we go for flow state. And I mean, we're also not doing bad on the card advantage department, but the problem is we just need more stabilization stuff. I decide to go for the Wasteland here because I don't want them to level up the Storm Chaser's talents, and I might as well attack with Kaito here and put the 2 lands in the graveyard that I put there with the brainstorm before, because I also don't want to fetch down to 3. But yeah, the opponent has a cutter now and brainstorm, and it's just getting too much to handle here. So we try it one more time with a flow state, but we only find lands, and we crack the clue token, find another flow state, but yeah, it's just not enough. We could also have attacked with Murktide region, but at that point they would have just blocked the Kaito to not die, and we would maybe die on the backswing. So I think this is as much of a defense as we could muster here with the Tamio uptick, but they can just triple spell here with all their prowess stuff, and they find a bolt as well, and we are dead. But it was close. And in game 3, we keep the same sideboarding. We don't bring in like a force or something. We have enough good cards in the deck, especially for the late game. And we pass here. We could go for basic lands. For example, if the opponent goes for Dragon's Rage Channeler, we could go for basic Swamp into a Fatal Push. Opponent goes for Surveillant. So we could have gone for the Surveillant as well, but I decide to prioritize a stable mana base here and try to do something with the Orcish Bowmaster. So I just decide to do it here. I mean, if they have a daze, that's okay, but we are already land up from being on the play. So I think it's okay for me here if they daze us because they don't have a threat along with it. Opponent goes for a brainstorm. No, they go for the daze instead, which is fine. And now they go for the brainstorm, but yeah, now we are ahead in lands, and we can go for the brainstorm here. And we don't have a shuffle effect unless, no, we have the ponder as a shuffle effect. So here it's quite difficult to know what we want to put back because we really like everything. So we just put back the flow state and I think a land for now, and just use the bauble and Tamio and just draw into the cards again next turn because we like all the cards there. And like ponder plus bauble means we just draw everything until the next turn cycle. Opponent goes for the wasteland, but like wasteland from 2 lands behind is just not really great. And now we can just go for ponder and flow state. So we see flow state and hydroblast, all excellent cards. Only problem is we don't have a land drop for this. No, we have a land drop for this turn. So if they daze here with the Thundering Fall, it's also really bad for them. So now we just take Brainstorm and Hydroblast. And yeah, at this point, it will be really difficult for the opponent to catch up. They do manage to create one token here. But I mean, we have the Brainstorm to flip Tamio, and then we can also kill the Cutter with the Hydroblast, playing around Daze with that. Right, yeah. And now we can just go for more flow states again because the opponent could daze it, but they're already quite behind. So this is really interesting here because we really want a second land, but having a Bowmaster's Knight, they're all three excellent cards. So I think I decide to keep it at 4 lands, but it was a bit close. But I think the way we lose this game is if the opponent goes for some crazy cutter stuff, because we have the Murktide covered and we have the small creatures covered as well. And so I think, yeah, taking the small risk of getting wastelanded is okay, and the opponent does have a wasteland, but at this point they're just so far behind on mana that they cannot even use it. And yeah, that's always a difficult balance that we have to somehow empty our hand, right? But I think the Hydroblast and Bowmasters are just too good, and the opponent manages to create a 5/5 Monk token, but they don't have another daze, so we can snuff it out. However, we also go low on life. We are just at 11, but now we can just get back flow state and try to find a Barrowgolf or Nethergolf or something to finish off this game. So now I would really like to play the Nethergolf this turn, but I also want to clear the opponent's graveyard. So maybe we should not have drawn a card and instead played the Nethergolf to put on more pressure in hindsight. But I mean, we also want to draw more lands because if we get double wastelanded, for example, we are also in trouble, right? So maybe it was better, not completely sure. So we played another golf, which is a 5/6, which is really strong. And we play the Ponder last in case it gets dazed. We shuffle because at this point uh, we just need to worry about getting wastelanded out of the game. And the opponent manages to find Bolt and Cutter. But yeah, our 5/6 Nethergolfs are just really massive here. So we go for another flow state. We find a daze would be nice as well, but the opponent is on 4 cards in hand, 3 lands. So I think the daze is too unreliable. So we just go for the bobble here. See, the opponent has a brainstorm. So we can surprise Bowmasters, or we could also play the Bowmasters in the main phase, but instead I go for the Hydroblast here, and we are a bit low on time. So now we give the opponent a free Brainstorm that we cannot punish, but I think here it's more important that we just keep our own stuff moving. Opponent achieves Delirium and catches up with flow state, but I think at this point we're just too far ahead with our flow states and our hand is full of interaction. So here it's an interesting decision. Important if you play with Kaito again, remember to put the stop in the damage step because here the Nethergolf is bigger than the Kaito. So we could replay the Nethergolf, but I decide, I think, here to instead wasteland the opponent and we take the snuff out because I want to just prevent some crazy double spell, triple spell turns with something like Core Steel Cutter and equip Murktide, something like this, right? So there's Storm Chaser's Talent, Boomerang Basics on the talent, and the opponent is attacking us, and we decide to just take 1 more damage to get rid of it. And yeah, it's getting quite, we're getting quite low on life here. We can snag the token here. Opponent could have prevented that with a daze, which they probably don't have. And now we take the push and we can finally play out the Golf and the opponent is dead on board. But interestingly, we would be dead to something like double bolt, but they don't have it and we win there. And our trophy end boss is none other than Schmeckles, who is so often my end boss in some tournament like the Echo Cups or something. He just has those crazy runs where it just like goes 10-0. I think he won 2 Echo Cups in a row because he's just so good and his deck is also so strong into the Echo Cup meta. So he starts with turn 1 Chalice of the Void and I throw a few spells into the Chalice to enable flow state, but there's no chance. Like I just can't come back from this. I mean, it's already difficult, but like my whole hand does nothing, and I try to catch up with the flow states. But yeah, this deck is also just really, really good at putting on pressure. So yeah, the chalice plus pressure just beats us here super, super quickly, and we go on to game. And at least we have a really, really good sideboard. We have the 4 consign to memory against this stuff. And we have a really strong hand. I mean, we are lacking a threat, but we do have the consign to memory and flow state consign. So this looks really strong. Opponent seems to be on Hamlets instead of Wastelands. So we go for the Underground Sea. Ponder, and we keep this because there's a Barrow Golf. We just need to find a third land. Opponent goes for Eldrazi Linebreaker, which we don't force because we can just snuff it out. So we are hopeful here. And on the second turn, we can already play an enabled flow state. So what an insane hand here. And we can take the Barrow Golf and the Polluted Delta. So yeah, insane start here. And we still have Consign and double force snuff Barrow Golf. What could go wrong here? Opponent goes for Glaring Flashraker. We decide to not force it because we have another snuff out, and the opponent has a second Flashraker. And now we tap out for the Barrow Golf. We could also have kept open mana for Consign, but we are at 11. I think that's, and we could have like Wasteland, maybe this would have been better, but I thought my best choice here would be to play the 5/5 Barrow Golf with the force up, and the opponent goes for Glaring Flashraker number 3, which we force. And then there's also a Sword Knot Seer taking away our consign to memory, and the last card in hand is Kozilek's command for X equals 3. And on turn 3, on the draw from our opponent, from our Eldrazi master Schmeckles, already at 1 life, and we're dead. Turn 4. Oh my god, what a beating. Congratulations, Schmeckles. Trophy not managed, but still for 1 was a nice run. Hope you had a nice time watching it, and see